Welcome to this first of our 20-minute teaching. Oh, and I just need to start my timer to make sure we stay to 20 minutes of our 20-minute teamship teaching. So my name's Julia Felton and I'm your host and guide while we go through this today. So today I wanted to talk about how visionary leaders build loyal, high-performing teams by leading from presence, not pressure. So I just want to start by asking you a quick question. How easy is it for you to build trust with your team and clients? And perhaps you could just put into the chat for me. Actually, no, there's just three of you, so just shout it out. Do you think if it's easy for you to build trust on a level of, if your score you think is 1 to 3, then that's fragile. 4 to 6 is cautious. 7 to 8 is solid, or 9 to 10 is effortless. So I'm just curious. How easy do you think it is to build trust for your team and clients? So Claire, do you want to chip in first since you're at the top of my screen?
Sure, yeah, I put a 7. I think I'm between a 7 and an 8. I can
okay,
but I want it to be effortless.
You want it to be effortless, fabulous. Okay, Michaela, what do you think your score is?
I think I'm around an 8.
An 8, okay, awesome. Yeah. So we've got some great people in here today. What about John? What about in your situation, sir? You need to unmute, John.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
Rapport with people.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, thank you very much
7,
for sharing that. So
if not an 8.
7, 8. Okay, good. So good. It's great that you've shown up because you're already doing really well then at building trust in your organization. So fabulous. I look forward to hearing a bit more. So wanted to really talk a bit today about what I call here this Teamberg of team performance, because as visionary leaders, we're wanting to build high performance teams. And I think when we often look at team performance, I think about it a little bit like an iceberg. And there's what we can see above the line and what we can't see beneath the line. And what we tend to look at it in organizations and what we see, first of all, are things like missed deadlines, conflict, low morale, silos, and communication breakdowns. But of course, that's only part of the problem, is it? And a lot of us are just dealing with what we can see above the waterline. But as we all know, an iceberg has a huge amount going on below the waterline. And this is where it's really important for us to focus, because this is what is the cause of the problems originally. And these are things like the lack of trust, misaligned energy, weak emotional safety, values mismatch, leadership fatigue, and unclear roles. So many organizations that I'm working with, as I said, they tend to focus on what we can see at the top, and they're calling me up and they want me to help them improve time management so we can get our deadlines met on time, or how do we have conversations, Julia, around healthy conflict. But actually what that many of them aren't prepared to do is dig underneath and really look at why there isn't a level of trust, how we can get more energy and get everyone pulling in the same direction rather than pulling in opposite directions, create this high level of psychological safety, and also make sure that our values are aligned with the rest of the organization and what we want to achieve, and also have this high level of clear roles. And why is it important that we really focus on the base of this iceberg and solve these problems? And it's because we really want to, at the end of the day, create a high trust organization. We know from the work of Patrick Lencioni and others that trust is the base of a pyramid that creates a high performing team. PubMed Central indicated that employees in high trust organizations report a 10.3% higher productivity and 90% more joy in their work compared to those in low trust settings. And a study by Forbes, or reported in Forbes, that Gallup identified was, and this was a shocking figure to me, was that low trust environments, they believe, cost the global economy $8.8 trillion annually. So that's equivalent of 9% of global GDP, just because we don't have a high trust environment in the workplace. So this is why it is so important that If we're going to create high performing teams, we need to think about how do we build this trust. So I'd like to introduce you to something here that I call the Unbridled Teamship Roadmap. And teamship is a newish concept I've come about, but it actually is a word that totally sums up all of the work that I've ever been doing, because teamship is about a progressive shared leadership model that emphasizes collective ownership, mutual trust, and dynamic collaboration. And unlike the command and control structures that most businesses have inherited, teamship is really inviting every team member to step up and lead from where they stand and co-create the outcomes. So what does that mean? It means that rather than relying on one heroic leader to lead all of the decisions, teamship recognizes that the best solutions arise when diverse voices contribute and when leadership is situational, shared, and earned. So in the Unbridled Teamship Roadmap model, what we have at the center is actually a desire, I believe, for all leaders to want to create a lasting leadership impact and make a real difference in the world. And at Business Horsepower, we believe that comes through three outcomes, and that's game-changing trust, impactful contribution, and unbridled adaptability. And today we're going to look at one of the 9 accelerators of this model that sits at the top, which is all about holistic partnerships. And holistic partnerships are when we move from this ego, this control, this pressure of the leader just doing everything, to us understanding that when we lead from a position of eco-leadership, when we think about the ecosystem and how everyone works together, then we get much more effective performance. So the one particular lever that we're going to look at today is what we call reveal the heart. And reveal the heart is all about how we move from pressure to presence. The pressure to presence line here, let me see if I can draw it, is when we have managers who operate from this area of pressure. Let me just see if I can get my laser pointer up here. Yeah, down here. We've got leaders and managers that are pushing for results through control and urgency and micromanagement or fear. And there's a focus on compliance and not commitment. And what does that mean? It means our team members often feel anxious, reactive, or disconnected. And it breeds a real short-term performance at the cost of long-term trust and engagement. And unfortunately, innovation and collaboration and well-being typically decline because people are in survival mode. So that's the problem. When as a leader, we lead from pressure, we put our team into this space where they've got fear and they feel like they're in survival mode, and so they don't operate at their full potential. So this area of pressure, this creates massive resistance within the organization, where when we start leading from presence, leaders stay grounded, they listen deeply, and they respond thoughtfully. And it's this presence that fosters the psychological safety and emotional regulation, both for the leader and for the team. And it opens up a space for us for authentic conversations, deeper connection, and trust, because our team members feel seen, heard, and empowered to perform at their best. And so presence is what creates a resilient, creative, and sustainable performing team. And I think perhaps it's understandable at the moment why some teams and some leaders are leading from this position of pressure, because I think we can probably all agree we're living in a world that is very uncertain. And when leaders aren't sure what's going on, it's easier to them to revert to trying to stay in control of everything. Whereas actually what we really need leaders to do is become more present, be more available for their team members. And a number of you I haven't met here on the call before, but I actually have a herd of horses, and some of my leadership interventions I actually do with my horses. And it's been very interesting because unfortunately, about 2 months ago, the leader of my herd actually passed away. He was very elderly. He was about 33 years old. And it's been very interesting because as a leader, for me, I've had a lot of heartbreak about losing this horse. And I found it difficult to show up effectively for the rest of the herd. And they were very clear with me recently that they needed me to show up and be way more present to keep them feeling safe and secure. Actually, me stepping away and hiding wasn't what they needed. They actually needed my presence more than ever when the going gets tough. And it was a really interesting lesson for me because it's what I see happening in the workplace a lot. When the going gets tough, leaders disappear. They either go into the pressure or they go into that kind of abdication and we never see them, rather than being really present in the moment with their team members. So how do we create presence and create this high level of trust? So I wanted to share with you a couple of concepts now, and I'm conscious of where we are on our 20 minutes, on how we can actually build trust within the organization. Because for me, when we're very present, that's really the only time that we can start building trust effectively. And the first of these levers is credibility. Because trust begins with believing somebody knows what you're talking about. It's built up through our competence, our experiencing, and delivering on our promises. It's all about being respected and reliable in what we say and do. And we all trust people that are credible, right? The second pillar of this trust triangle is connection. Because we trust those we feel genuinely seen and valued by. And connection for me is like an emotional glue. And it's built through empathy, presence, and caring about others as people, not just as roles or results. And connection is much more than communication. It's about this heartfelt bonding with somebody else. And in the workplace right nowadays, we have, I think, not enough connection going on. But I think for a lot of people, there's a fear. I think we live in a world where people feel more disconnected than ever. People aren't connected to themselves, let alone often being able to connect with others effectively. Then the third part is clarity. And clarity is what cuts through confusion and creates certainty. So when expectations, intentions, and boundaries are clear, people feel safe. Ambiguity erodes trust. Clarity creates confidence. So it's so important that as leaders, we create this confidence for our team members, because people feel confident when they know what's happening. And I think what's really interesting when we think about presence is right now, a lot of leaders don't feel like they have clarity because of the uncertainty that we live in. But what we need to do and be is we need to be clear in the moment. That's all that we can do. As a leader, we need to be clear what needs to happen this second and this second. We don't need to have clarity about the future because we don't necessarily know what it's going to bring, but we can inspire that confidence and build that connection and credibility with our team members when we have clarity about what we think is happening in the moment right now. And a lot of team members, as I said, a lot of team leaders have uncertainty about the clarity right now. And I do really understand that, but I think it's fine to say to our team members, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this is what I know to be true today. Tomorrow that might not be true. Something different might happen, but we need to have that clarity in the moment. And of course, then we need to have consistency, which is at the center of this trust triangle of how. Because trust isn't built in a day, but it's built through repeated actions over time. So consistency means showing up the same way time after time, and it proves reliability, and this reinforces the safety in relationships. So this is the how of the trust triangle, but who do we need to become? Who do we need to be in order to build trust? And I'd like to suggest that the first of those is congruence. Because people trust you when your words, actions, and values align. And congruence is about being aligned head, heart, and gut. So everything we do is authentic and it's genuine. And our team members really value us. And we know that there's a lot of research that authentic leadership is one of the keys to success. The irony is when we're not being congruent and authentic, people see through that because team members aren't stupid. And the horses in particular, when I work with the horses, they are masters at reading a level of congruence. So congruence is about walking your talk. And it's when, as I said, who you are matches on the inside and outside. So others experience you as authentic and trustworthy. The other thing that we need to show up as and how we and who we are is about being caring. Because trust grows when people feel you genuinely care about them. It means prioritizing people, not just performance. And this is a big conundrum for leaders right at the moment, is how do we prioritize people and performance at the same time? But caring is about being empathetic, compassionate, and having a willingness to support others' well-being and success. And actually, I believe we need more caring in the world, and more leaders need to show up in a more caring capacity for us to build these levels of trust and psychological safety in the workplace that then actually will create higher levels of performance for the business. Then we need some courage. Leaders need to do the right thing, even when it's hard. And courage is all about the willingness to speak your truth and make bold decisions and face discomfort, especially when it protects or uplifts the team. We need courage to have challenging conversations with people. And we need courage to do the right thing, even in the face of adversity. But what underpins all of this is curiosity. Curiosity keeps trust alive by inviting understanding over judgment. It means listening deeply and asking questions and staying open, and it creates spaces for others to be heard and valued without fear. So why is all of this important? I think we can probably all agree that the primary purpose of an enterprise or a business is to add value to the market it serves and to leverage its resources effectively to stay healthy and grow. And therefore, it means that trust is one measure of how an organization performs. And in the research that we've done and has been done, companies measure their value that they provide to the marketplace. The outcome that we see is revenue, but the revenue is driven by the level of trust that we have within the organization. So sustainable value is created by measuring and managing trust. And this is why trust is so important and why leaders need to become more present to create more trust so we can generate more revenue within the business. And the opposite of that is leverage. So once we've created value within an organization, then we can leverage that. And that is measured by the amount of profit that shows up in an organization. And the measure of that is flow. So this is how I wanted to bring it all together, because we wanted to show you how trust is so important, because actually it directly links to the financial performance of the business. So I'm conscious I'm at my 20 minutes, so we'll just start bringing this to a close. So what does the future look like for your team? Because the one thing that we know to be true is that wherever you are today, and most of you said that you were like a 7 or 8 on the trust scale, is that over time, organizations naturally drift. They drift off of this line and they fall down here, unless we are really consciously thinking about how do we day in, day out improve our team performance. So we work with clients with the Unbridled Teamship model to help them get and stay onto this green line to create outrageous team success. So I just want to leave you with one final thought, which is this, is that you can only reinvent your business at the level of trust you have. And reinvention is a really important topic right now. Companies are reinventing on average every 6 years. In some industries, it's every year. So you as a leader and you as your business are going to need to continually reinvent. And I saw a statistic the other day that was 55% of business models will be obsolete within the next few years. So as a business owner and business leader, you're going to have to continually reinvent your business model as well. And if you can only reinvent at the level of trust you have, if you've got low levels of trust, you're going to be only able to do low levels of reinvention, and there you're going to struggle to help your business thrive going forward. So just a couple of quick resources for you as we bring this to a close. I'd encourage you to take the Turbocharge Your Team assessment. You can find it at businesshorsepower.com/quiz. And Fred, perhaps you can put that in the chat for people. And once you've taken that quiz, then I'd love you to join me on a complimentary Turbocharge Your Team audit call, where we'll look at your results and I'll give you some ideas into how to turbocharge your team performance, one of the levers through increasing trust. You're also welcome to listen to our podcast, which is Impactful Teamwork, which you can find at businesshorsepower/podcast, or please feel free to follow me on LinkedIn at juliafelton.com.